No, it's Clive Roxing here. I've discovered something, an anomaly not only with springs, but it also extends to rubber bands, and I'm going to coin it useful tension. And this is a very bizarre factor that I didn't even know about. Apparently when they design springs, you will stretch it to a certain point and it bends the spring. This here works, as you can see there, but once I push that spring past its threshold, it actually bends the spring, and I think that's what's happened there. Now that's working the way I wanted it. It's a bit horrible, but that's intended to go there, and you just slide it like that. You push it down, and what I'm thinking, I'll probably have it sideways and do it like that, but obviously it's got to be a lot smaller. But this useful tension is starting to be a bit of a problem, especially with the rubber bands that I've been using on the active load tester, which I'll go over a bit later because I'm going to have to use that. I found that when I dropped the ball on that trampoline thing that I designed, it only went to 2 kilograms and it wouldn't go any further. And what happens is that in rubber you have the useful tension, and then once you go beyond a certain point, it doesn't pull any more pressure. So apparently the rubber bands those particular large rubber bands have a threshold of about 2 kilograms, and you can stretch it beyond that point and the poundage stays the same, which is bizarre. So what that means is that I'll have to measure what the useful tension is and make sure that when I rate the piece of apparatus that I rate it based on the useful tension and not a full extension of the rubber, because it stretches to a point and then the useful tension is exceeded and no more poundage is measured. So it's going to be difficult. So I'm going to have to use the active load tester to test the dropping of that ball, because the rubber was going past its useful tension and I'm not going to get a proper reading from that. I will get a bit of an idea, but yeah, it's gonna be tricky now, and trying to design. I'm going to have to put double springs in this to get, because the useful tension is there. That's the useful tension there, but that's actually going beyond the threshold of the spring, and it's damaging it. So what I've got to do is put 2 springs in there, so I'm getting that in the first quarter of an inch, and then limit the movement to that so that it can't go any further, and that way it's not going to damage the spring. So when they design Cole's pegs, they only compress until the faces touch together. These are designed so that when the faces touch, that's its useful tension. If you take it out of there and stretch it beyond that point, it goes beyond its useful tension and it bends the spring. So it'll spring like that forever, but the funny thing is if you go another 10mm, it'll damage the peg and it won't close. So that's bizarre, I didn't even know that. So this is really interesting, useful tension. There'd be a name for it, but I don't know what it is. I'm going to coin it useful tension, but it's definitely something that I need to take into consideration. That's working. It's actually not bad. I had to do a few cuts in it, and I had to modify things. There's got to be holes in the top for access to the screws, and this is obviously it's got to be looked at, and I think I might mount it on the side like that, which means it's got to have an opposing box on the other side, and that'll probably have to work on a taper, and so I'll push something down. And also I'm having the problem is that if I push that down, it's going to pull that up and it's not going to seat on the bed. So I may have to have screws that adjust down to account for the fact that, so it's good because it makes it tight, so it'll push up with this assembly here, and then I'll have 4 screws on either side that you just very lightly screw down to take up the slack, and then when I'm testing something it's not moving the bed. So yeah, this is pretty tricky stuff. This is coming along beautiful. That's lovely and flat. That's come up very nice. I made a new base up for it. They're all numbered. The L means left, and this is your left side here, and the other one's not marked. The other one's not marked, which I've got just double, that's 22. That's STL number 22. That's how I identify these. But yeah, it's a very long process, designing stuff. Oh, I'm getting results. I mean, I started with that. The reason I only went to that was with PLA. This is with stuff like welding wire and, wood and, like thin dowels of wood and stuff like that. So I can do a lot of testing with this, but it's only with light stuff. But that's all you need. And you can extend the mathematics to the heavier stuff. So that's about it. Yeah, useful tension. That's Clive Rocksinger over and out.